All right, great afternoon, great morning, wherever you are. Erica, great to see you. Karita, Angela, thank you for joining us. I believe William's here. Gina's about to tap in. Hopefully, I didn't miss anybody. Oh, did I see Angela already? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good to see y'all. How's everybody doing? Everybody excited about learning about authoring and writing and all the fun stuff with books?
We
Come
got
on,
some
family. Don't.
quiet, we some
Yeah,
energy. Somebody,
I'm like,
some tea, some smiling. It's Thursday. What's up?
you're like, man, it's
There
not a
we
Friday.
go.
Yeah, it's like it's not a Friday. It's weird.
I love it. I love it.
Doris,
Hey,
welcome. William,
yeah.
welcome.
Hey everyone.
Man, great to see y'all. Great to see
Hey,
y'all.
come in.
So
Tina.
appreciate y'all popping up for this bonus call. We've been talking about this for a few. Oh, what's this? Let's see the. What'd you do, Erica? I saw like the celebration things. Like, how did you make that happen?
I want to do that.
All full of surprises. Gina, good to see you. But yeah, excited for this bonus session, right? Is opening up to the general public, right? Not just for our champion members, but for anyone who's in our space in our community or wants to learn more about us. So I'm gonna get started with a quick slide share and we're gonna get into all the fun. But I must have boom, boom, boom. All right, because everybody can see my screen. Welcome to welcome to this is not for this is, like I said, for our champion members and our not yet members. So this is kind of an open house, but is also a theme to this one. So I'm gonna just have you type in the chat right now, this quick icebreaker. This is your first time at our one of our meetings, or where you're coming from in the world, whether you're what city, what state, if you're a different country, we'd love to know that too. And also, what inspired you to be on this specific call? What are you looking to get out of this hour with us? As we have two amazing powerhouses I'm going to get to introduce in just a few minutes. But yeah, I want to know like what's going on with y'all. What are we here for? Oh, Wake Forest. All right. Yeah, you're in my neck of the woods. I'm in Clayton. So welcome aboard, Angela. Thanks for tapping in. I know, like LA, not your first time. Yes, the Phoenix connection. Love it. Arizona, we love y'all. Man, William, thank you for tapping in. Did I miss anybody? Oh, yeah, Tony, welcome. See you here. London, UK, Seattle, Washington. So, yes, global movement. That's who we are. That's what we do. And if you don't know more about us, I want to open this up real quick for does anybody is anybody brave enough to recite our mission? This is something that we do at the start of every call, but I'm wondering if anybody here has it memorized. That'd be kind of a fun thing to play with. And if not, that's fine as well. So in case you don't know who we are, what we stand for, we are the BIPOC Coach Collective, and our mission is to create a brave and authentic space for coaches of color to grow their businesses, advance professionally, to elevate our voices globally in this coaching profession. So we were founded by Reem Blue Tyson in July 2020, and she saw a need where there's a lot of spaces, but not many faces that look like us in these rooms. So she decided to do something about it and then started networking, started connecting with more coaches of color around the world. And then 2023, last year, myself, Reem, Kibi here, and Gwen, we decided to launch this as a membership space. So this is what you hear me talk about our champions. That's what I'm referring to as our members who are paid into this group. So this is our quick leadership team here. Reem, as I mentioned, myself as the VP, Kibi, who's our treasurer. She's going to drop some amazing gems for y'all today. And Gwen, our secretary slash operational hand at stake. So we're here to learn about writing a story, right? So let's meet some of these authors who are going to help you in that. So first, we have Kibi Anderson, and she's going to be talking about her book that she was able to co-author, Point Taken, Brilliant Business Advice from Women at the Top. And let you
Yes.
know about Kibi, she is known as the life editor. She works with clients to reshape their visions, achieve their goals, and ensure that they are living their authentic best lives. And She's got a tremendous story. I'm gonna let her tell it more about it. I just want to kind of get that quick setup for her as one of the authors here, and as extra bonus, we're joined as well by Kenyatta Turner. So she's got multi author books, right? It's like a multitude, a multiverse. Is that how we can say it?
Yes.
So she's gonna be talking about her book, The Art of Connection, 365 Days of Gratitude Quotes and Thrive, Transformative Strategies for Entrepreneurs. So Kenyatta is a renowned keynote speaker, author, and behavioral superpowers coach. She's got 28 plus years of executive leadership experience in post-secondary education institutions across Arizona. So, ladies, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us. I'm going to turn off this share for a second so we can really all engage together as a community, because that's what we do. That's what we're here for. So, give me a second. Sorry, guys. My screens are like wild right now. So, you're here to learn about authoring a book. So, I'm going to start with you, Kibi. You can tell us about Point Taken and why did you decide to write in the first place?
It's on here
hold
because
on.
they want to write a book. Can you guys not hear me?
Now you're good. Now you're good. It was
Okay,
off for a
cool.
second.
Okay, awesome. No, I just wanted, I will answer that question, but I just would love to know who here is absolutely like bucket list. I want to write a book in the next like 12 to 18 months. Raise your hand, please, just so I can see. I see 3. Okay, if you hear like, I'm thinking about it, not really sure, trying to see if this may be a pathway forward. Yeah, okay, cool. And some people are just, I don't want to do that with no books. I just thought it'd be cool to be in the room with some coaches. Okay, cool. All right. Good stuff. Awesome. So it's just helpful for me to figure out how to like tailor my my response. So I am the author of this lovely book, Point Taken, which I'm proud to say is a bestseller. As of like the first week we came out, which is a really awesome feat and exciting accomplishment. You know, I am somebody who has wanted to write a book for a long time. For many of you, some of you may not know, but I actually started my career professionally in the entertainment industry. I'm a film producer, Emmy Award-winning content creator. So I have been around writers and creative spaces for a very long time. And so, like I said, I've always wanted to write a book, but have felt very intimidated by the process because I work with Academy Award-winning writers for many years. And so there's a lot of talent that I see every day. And I'll never forget one of my first bosses, who was a celebrated author, screenwriter, and TV writer. And I was sharing with him some pages of a story I was writing. And he said to me very honestly, he's like, "It's not very good." And he said, "However, keep writing." He also said, "You know, Kibi, writing a book is hard for anyone. Even me, as somebody who's written, I think at that time, 8 of them. But I will tell you, it gets infinitely easier when you finally have something to say." And so I just say that for all of you all when it comes to this idea of writing a book. Whether you have like, I know what I want to say, or I'm not sure, I know there's something in me, the more you are able to really sit down and quantify and understand like the why behind why you want to put this out there, the more easy the process becomes. So this story that I wrote in Point Taken is called The Saga of Arrested Rebel. And it is part of a broader book that I plan to write next year called Embracing the Power of the Pause. And it came out of my own journey to redefining my relationship with rest. I've done, a talk with this group around that conversation, and I'm doing more work around it. And like I said, I've wanted to write a book on it, but it was the idea of writing it in the context of everything else going on in my life was very, very difficult to conceive because it takes a long time. It is very hard to write a book. And so I had a dear friend who had participated in this publisher that I did this book through a year back and had a really good experience. And she had sort of explained to me how it worked. And so that's when the first idea of doing a multi-author book came around. And when I chatted with the publisher, it's called Tulip Press, I really liked what she stood for. She's a female-owned publishing house out of Austin. She's all about helping women, business leaders and entrepreneurs, and just thought leaders actually assert the power of our stories and our voice. And her whole focus is around elevating stories and really our stories. Obviously, we have theories and ideas and visions and messages, but at the end of the day, our stories and our lives are actually sometimes the most powerful teachers. And so the way this publisher works is they have a concept, And then they basically kind of recruit people to take a chapter in it. So you have a single chapter that you write. It's your voice, your story. They coach you through it. And then but it falls within an overall theme. So this was exciting for me because when I learned the theme of the book was built brilliant business advice from women at the top, a light bulb went off because I was like, oh, like my book, Power of the Pause, is all about helping business women, business leaders redefine their relationship with rest, because that was who I was. So it was a really nice fit. And so it allowed me to, A, become an author, which is very helpful in elevating my work as a coach. B, help me understand through real action, do I like writing? Like, is this fun? Like, do I actually think I can do it? And then C, do it in community, because I'm a big accountability person and I need accountability to help with that. So the structure of the multi-author book really provided that for me, which I realize is going to be integral for me doing the longer book. So I'll hold off on kind of giving more insight and I can answer questions, but that's really my journey to it and why I found it to be so valuable, because I was able to kind of check off all those boxes relatively quickly, because my publisher's kind of program promises you go from idea to published author, ideally best-selling published author, in 90 days.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you so much for that. A lot of gems. Hopefully y'all like taking notes. Like this is recorded, but be here, be present as much as you can. Kenyatta, tell us about your books. Tell us about whichever one you want to talk about, The Art of Connection or Thrive, whichever makes sense for you in this context, and just about how you even got started in the multi-author process or game of sorts.
Yes, absolutely. So I have here there, if you go to my author page in on Amazon, there's 7 books that I've been a part of starting in 2019. And I had to kind of go back and look and be like, how long have I been doing this? And here's what's interesting about it. I have not yet written my own book. So this might be something from a lens for someone who's considering maybe writing their own book and trying to figure out where to start, just exactly as Kibi just said, right? There's so many avenues to do that, and figuring out why you want to do it, what is the story you want to tell, how to go about that. And even after having done all these other books, I've not yet nailed down what I want my first book that's all mine to be about. So I'm at that stage. But someone gave me an idea the other day that I'm absolutely going to execute. I'm going to take all of my excerpts that I've written for all 7 of these books. Sometimes it was a prologue, sometimes it was a chapter, a quote, and then a whole page dedicated to it. Other times it was a talk that I did, a virtual talk that was recorded and transcribed that was added to a book. And even in this one book, this first one, this little itty bitty book here, I literally have 1 paragraph like in it. This is the first one I did. But someone gave me the idea of what they called a micro memoir. And they said, why don't you take all the things you've written and put them into one book? That is a book right there. You wrote all these things before. Are they relative? Do they connect? Well, the fact is they do, because everything I wrote was around behavior, behavioral superpowers, behavioral science in some kind of way, because I've been doing this work as a behavioral superpowers coach since 2019. So everything I wrote always had something to do with that. So I'm excited about this idea of this micro memoir. And it literally was like a week ago, someone gave me this idea and I was like, maybe that's what I'll do first, as I consider what is the overall story that I'll tell in a book that's on my own. So all of the books that I've been a part of are book collaborations where I added something to a group that was being done. And so if I talk about, let's say this little one, I wrote a little paragraph in this book. I also wrote a prologue, the prologue to this book, which is called The 8 Qualities of Exceptional Black Women in Business and Entrepreneurship. So this book was a collaboration where Michelle S. Thomas put us all together to write the book, and each of the women wrote about one of the 8 qualities that they wanted to write about, or she asked them about. But when she and I spoke, after she listened to my story, she said, oh no, I want you to write the prologue to this book, right? So I didn't write about one of the 8 qualities separately. I wrote about all of them in the introduction to the book. The Thrive book, this was the one that was from a talk that I did recently for the Connected Leaders Academy. And they took all of us and took all of our talks, transcribed them, and put them all in this book. So that one was interesting. And then there's 4 Art of Connection books. And this is 365 days of networking quotes where every single author wrote a quote, original quote. They write about the quote and then they ask a question to the audience. And there's one for every day of the year. You get to pick the year that you want to, or pick the day you want yours on. So there's networking quotes, inspirational quotes, transformational quotes, gratitude quotes, and the one that's coming up, the fifth of this legacy series, is abundance quotes. And I can talk more about that one later if anyone's interested in being a part of that one. But the community that's built around these books, and I guess I'll end with that, being a part of them and the people who are connected to them. And Kibi mentioned about that, like it's about accountability, it's about community, it's about a global connection with like-minded people who want to contribute to something like this. And that's where I started my writing journey, just dipping my toe in literally with one paragraph in this little Master the Art of Connection book, to see, did I like writing? Was I good at it? How did it make me feel? And obviously I kept doing it. So that's it.
Obviously, yeah, appreciate that. Thank you for that context there. So I'm gonna get to the questions a little bit later on. What I want to set up the two authors for right now is just reading a short passage from your chapters or whatever you want to share in there. Kind of have this little bit of a book reading, right? Because we want to celebrate y'all. We want to help launch these books and get it out to more hands and eyes. And probably the second half of this call around 12:30, that's where we're going to start getting into questions, because I have a bunch of questions, but I also want to open up for you all watching, being here, present with us to ask those two great questions already so far. So, Kibi, I'm gonna start with you. If you want to, share a few minutes, like read a quick thing, a powerful passage from your chapter, I think will anchor home what you're bringing here today.
Sure, definitely, yeah. And just for context, like I shared, this book, my chapter is called The Saga of Arrested Rebel. It chronicles my journey to kind of return to healing from a life-threatening illness that really brought me to my knees around how I was approaching incorporating rest in my life, and ultimately forced me to answer the pivotal question, why are you so afraid to rest? And so the passage I'm going to read is connected to the programming that had me stuck in this idea that I didn't have the luxury to rest, and that the only way to achieve my business goals, my professional goals, was to work harder. All right. So here we go. Programmed by societal norms rooted in capitalist ethos, my existence seemed bound to the conviction that my value hinged on relentless productivity and sacrifice, a narrative particularly potent as a woman. I wore the self-imposed pressure to work incessantly as a badge of honor, a zombie navigating life with a perpetual sense of doing, blinded by the belief that rest must be earned. The familiar refrain of once I finish the work, then I'll rest, resounded not only within my mind, but resonated among countless professionals and friends. Years of this distorted mindset was clearly killing me. I wanted off this ride. My desperation produced a cascade of questions. Has anyone ever taught me the art of rest? Did I witness my mother or anyone in my close-knit community master the technique of slowing down? Amid the grating voices advocating for balance and self-care, I found myself taking vacations, engaging in Vipassana meditation, and prioritizing sleep, only to discover that I was still fucking tired in my bones. The conversation about pausing seemed reserved for the privileged, those with the luxury of financial ease. Solely responsible for my livelihood and the welfare of my family, I found myself trapped in a skeptical circle, seeking guidance that remained elusive. The outside world offered no viable approach to quell the notion that rest was a luxury beyond my grasp.
Whew. I mean, I was blessed to read a little bit of it beforehand, before like the official launch, and I shared with you privately like how moved and affected I was by that, and just hearing it experiencing you tell it is a different thing. So thank you for that, and
thank you.
Whew. And if you want to share where we can find that book, right? Share in the chat if anybody's interested
definitely.
in picking up a copy for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll definitely share a link for folks to purchase it. And I mean, I definitely want to let Kenyatta share hers. I think that I want
Yeah.
to make sure I'm making this relevant to kind of the questions you guys are also asking. One of the ideas, one of the questions was around how do I make this relevant to my business? How do I help my business grow? And for me, I have tied my writing directly to the concepts that I teach and coach around. So for example, I do a keynote called The Power of the Pause. This started as a keynote. And so my understanding and my realization as I began to talk to and connect with other people who are more successful in the areas that I want to grow, my business, revenue, my keynote speaking, everybody began to tell me the power of having a book. So when you want to be able to elevate, get into a room, access certain perhaps corporate clients, which is where I target a lot of my work with. It's having a book is a very powerful tool. And so because I was already doing this keynote, the multi-author book became a much more expedient way for me to actually have the book to go along with it, to spark conversation. And it's worked. I mean, I've had people reach out to me. I'm coordinating a multi-city author tour next. I mean, that started this summer. That's going into the fall. I'm having corporate clients say, hey, I'd like to bring you out. We'll buy books. We'll talk about it. And then I can obviously have that be a lead in to, hey, I'll do a full keynote around this as well. So there are very direct correlations to having a book, especially if you have goals around building corporate coaching work or any kind of, coaching work where your book highlights that and goes into more depth. Absolutely. If you want to do keynote speaking, I mean, there's nothing like being able to say you're a published author, better yet, best-selling author, and you want to come talk about that. So my writing in this chapter is very visceral because this was my experience, and I've talked to a lot of leaders, CEOs, founders, people who I coach, and they can very much relate to it. So when they see themselves in it, it amplifies their desire to actually want to have a conversation around it, and the book really helps close those deals.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that as far as how you both are leveraging it and just the intentionality. So I love that you touched on that right there. And Kenyatta, whichever passage, whatever book you want to read, give us a couple of minutes, and then we're going to open it up for some fun Q&A.
Sure, absolutely. And I also want to say thanks to everyone who's here right now. This is cool to have you coming to learn more about this. And I'm learning so much listening from Kibi speak. And the questions you're asking are such a good question. I'm just glad to be a part of this space in this conversation. So this is really cool. Oh, and Gina, good to see you. We were just talking about you yesterday, by the way. So we got to catch up. So you've been getting talked about. So I chose to read a little bit about what I wrote in the 8 qualities of exceptional Black women in business and entrepreneurship. And all of these 7 books, 5 of them are international best-selling books, and which is exciting to be a part of that process. And 4 of them are in the Library of Congress. And the 5th one is we're getting certificates actually to show our authenticity of having books in the Library of Congress. So we can talk about that and what something like that might mean as you're thinking about where you want to publish your books at and why where you want them to be located. But this is what I wrote, a couple paragraphs here, just real quick. The beginning of the prologue that I wrote for this particular book, it says, as an exceptional Black woman, it is important to take a deep dive into some of the qualities that make us who we are. This timeless book will share 8 of the countless qualities of exceptional Black women in business and entrepreneurship. You will have an opportunity to explore the short list, the qualities that have been curated to give the reader an idea of what it truly takes to hold such an esteemed title. I'm honored to write the introduction to this journey. Advocate, authentic, faithful, fierce, influential, resilient, strong, versatile. Each of these words carries its own weight, depth, and insight into success and achievement. Yet, where does it all begin? How does one become an advocate? Or where does one find faith? How does one develop influence? From where does the strength originate? What generates fierceness? How versatile does one need to be? Where is the sense of resiliency forged? And how does one become authentic? Well, read on, because I have a part of the answer for you. Quite simply, it starts with you learning to become behaviorally and unapologetically you, while at the same time remembering that it's not personal, it's just behavioral science. And so that's a part of the introduction. It's several pages long, but that's just a little excerpt into this book right here. This book is not on the bestseller list in the way that many of these books become bestsellers. This book intentionally, Michelle S. Thomas wanted it to get on the bestseller list of actual copies, hard copies sold. And there's a certain number that it has to get on this certain bestseller list. So for this book, personally, I bought the actual copies of it for all of us, and I sign them and I sell them to people. So if people want them, they can get them directly from me, and they'll get a signed autographed copy versus like a digital version or something like that that sometimes are available. And that's how that's the one I chose to share with you guys right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I love that strategy as well, right? Buying some of these books, signing them, selling them at different events. Kibi kind of talked about that with
right.
When you're keynote speaking. If that's something you're interested in, I would highly recommend it. That is a really easy way to one to many and then come back to one person, right? You're the expert, you're the authority person, and then that the right person in that crowd's like, oh, I need her, I need him to come to my group, talk to them. Oh, bring the books. Yes, get us the books, all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna just go in the questions in the chat right now. So Shay had her hand up first with, how do we find multi-author opportunities? So Kenyatta, Kibi, I'm gonna open this to you both as kind of a panel discussion here, and share, how did you find your opportunities?
Sure, I'll go. I mean, I shared how I found mine. Like, I was in a cohort of other CEO women, and another friend was doing it, and I asked about it, and I set up a call with the publisher. I would say, I mean, Kenyatta's here. She can talk to you about the publishers who did theirs. If you were to go even into like Amazon or Google and just do multi-author books, if you find multi-author books that you like, typically look at the back and you'll see who the publisher is. So like my publisher's right here. They're called Sulit Press. So there are abundant amount of them, and I think it's more so not necessarily how do you find them, but how you determine which is the right one. Because there are a lot of people who do these things. I'm not going to front. A lot of them are really just to take your money. I mean, I don't know about Kenyatta. So there was a fee associated with my multi-author book, mainly because it included editorial and coaching around writing. Like, I knew that I wanted to write a full book. And so the nature of the writing of this was very different than the kind of writing that I do. I typically write newsletters. I typically do more like the how-to. This was really the what. Like, I had to dig deep and get into the storytelling. Like, so it felt more like a narrative and a read as you would any sort of, memoir type thing. And so I was looking for a publisher that would provide that as well. So we talked about how to go from, from telling and showing, all the things that go into making a story really jump off the page. So the first, like 2 months of my work was really around the actual art of writing a book, period. And then, we had to write, obviously. So then there was just the process of actually having to hit deadlines and all that kind of stuff. So you definitely want to make sure you know what you need, because some people are like, I already got it, I just want to put it. It sounds like Kenyatta, in her case, had a very, well done talk. She was able to include that. And I don't know how much, coaching came along with that. So I think that's something for you to ask yourself, like, what is it that you're looking for? And then be able to make assessments on that.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Kibi. That's all so true. Now, and I can share that with a couple of the first one, no coaching. It was like a paragraph. And I'll actually tell you what the paragraph is. This is a tip. It's a networking tip, right? It says, my natural networking style is to genuinely make friends while asking questions out of sheer curiosity. As a solid networking tip, I recommend simply being curious about the people in the world around you. When you exude honesty and interest, you receive it in return. Afterward, the fortunes and the follow-up as you reap the rewards of a new relationship, if it was meant to be. Now, I didn't need any coaching from anyone to write that, right? Like, that was just one paragraph, and I didn't get compensated for it. To ask someone who asked a question about how do you kind of get compensated, but I didn't pay for it either. So someone simply asked me. So what I found is that, how do I find more multi-author opportunities? I found once I started doing it, people started finding me. And I started getting asked to be a part of these multi-author books, right? And so a couple of them, the prologue to this one, the introduction, I didn't pay for it, and I didn't get paid to do it, right? So that was me making a choice that I was asked to do it, and I was honored to do it. So I chose to do that. With the other, the Art of Connections, those you have to pay to be involved in, but it's like $250 for a page. So that's to me like a no-brainer. Like, you know, it's like $250, and I have a book in the Library of Congress, and I'm in this author directory, and I'm connected with all these people, and there's a 50-city book signing tour, and it's on the Drumbltrons, the New York Times, and all that. That's worth the $250 to me to do that. But the opportunities kept coming because I think people saw me in other books, and they would contact me. Hey, I saw your book, or I saw you did this. And it just brought opportunities to me just because I was a part of it. And I don't even actively promote them hard. There's so many. And that's probably something where, actually not probably, I know I need to improve on how much I share that I'm in these books, because it's something that I don't do religiously, consistently, and quite honestly, often enough. And so, but the opportunities come because I started the process and at least did one. And so that's where, and I didn't go looking for them either. They literally were just kind of appeared. So
Yeah,
if
that
I
makes a lot of
look,
sense.
who knows?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It actually is a great segue into Gina's question. She says that she knows that it's not about the book sales and the more and really more about using these books as a business tool. So how are you both using the books to grow your businesses at this point?
Yeah. Well, I will say, Gina, I don't know if I actually agree with you in terms of it's not about the book sales. I think it depends on why you write the book, right? Like if your goal is to you want to write, then book sales matter. It does. I mean, to be able to say that you're a New York Times bestselling author, if you're looking to get another free book deal from Random House, I mean, sales matter. And so I think you have to assess, like, why are you writing the book? So to answer your question around how am I using this book in your business? So I have been approached by two well-known publishers, like global publishers, to publish my book, the full book. And when I spoke to them, the only thing that they shared was causing them to have pause was my email newsletter list was not big enough, and I didn't have enough followers on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And they gave me a number. They were like, if you can get to 10,000 here and this many, subscribers, we would love to publish your book. So I was like, okay, well, what are some of the fastest ways to grow? Have a book, have something that people, what is the fastest way for people to sign up for a newsletter and or to get followers? It was talking about a book, saying I'm going out on tour, posting little things, giving giveaways, and so my promotional work around getting people to know that I have this book coming helped me go from 0 email newsletter subscribers to almost 1,000 in less than 90 days. Now, clearly I have more work to do to get to the 5K, but that is how it's driving my business. Not only do I have the ability to say I'm a best-selling author, I'm able to grow my social following, grow my email newsletter following, all of which I can then use to promote my coaching businesses, promote my ability to get hired for speaking. I mean, it's a virtuous cycle. And at the end of the day, that was my goal when I did this book. I said, I want to get my email newsletter subscribers to 2,000, and I want to get my followers across LinkedIn and Instagram to over 10,000. So for me, it's helped me drive my business. So again, I think it's important for you to decide like why you want to publish. It wasn't about sales for me. The fact that we got to be best-selling was amazing. And I think that's something to determine whether or not you work with a multi-author publisher is how many bestsellers do they have? Because it makes a difference. My publisher, the last 4 books she's published have been bestsellers. She's perfected it. She knows how to do it. She's got high caliber people. Her network is amazing, and people are writing good shit. So that's the reason why people have decided to come work with her. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into that question.
I just want to do a quick tap in. Is this helpful for anybody right now? Like, are you starting to see like the bigger picture of this small piece of what you're doing of, like Kenyatta mentioned, $250 for one page, get on billboards, get your name out there. People have an immediate respect and authority for you. Like, oh, you're an author. And in Kibi's case, and both you Kenyatta as well, best-selling author, international. Like, whoa, the listening is different. So I just want y'all to like anchor into that and resonate real quick. So Kenyatta, go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you did not at all. So to add on to that, so we talked, let's say, about the Art of Connection book as an example, right? A couple things that I can use this to help grow my business and why it's been so powerful. So just like you said, it's a low cost of entry, $250 for one page. Two pages is like $2 or $450 or something like that. You can save money if you get, two pages, right? all I had to do, okay, now when I say all, meaning, all right, it still has to happen. So it's not easy per se, but what is your original quote? And then you write a page about, a paragraph or two about your quote, pose a question to the audience, and then your contact information is listed there forever, right? And this next one even has these dynamic QR codes that are going to be there. You can change your information over time, which I think is really powerful. And all the promoting that the publisher does to make sure the book becomes an international bestseller. They've done it with this particular book 4 times. So it's going to happen the 5th time, right? With some more things. And so, but here's what also happened to help me grow my business with it, even though it isn't for me about selling multiple copies of this. Here's the thing. All these other authors are also selling copies. So there's that. And there's hundreds of authors in this one book, right? There's 365 quotes. And if he doesn't fill the book with 365 authors, then whoever are the authors down who are doing the book, they make sure the other pages are filled with their own quotes. But typically, most of the quotes are done by individual authors. So that's a network. And so have I gotten business from the network? Has it helped me grow my business and connections and contracts I've been able to get, introductions that have been made? Absolutely. So it's about the book, it's about the selling of the book, but it's about the community who's involved in the book. And that is almost priceless. There is no price on that, right? Because who knows who I'm going to meet because someone I met who was a part of this book project from around the world, right? So that's still happening, that's infinite. And then the other thing about it, as far as getting training and coaching, this organization does provide that, right? They've got hundreds of authors that need to contribute to this. So they have meetings and networking opportunities and summits and radio shows and all of these different things to get you on, but they do have these workshops to help people who may need help writing their quote, who've never done this before, kind of thing. So the power of how it grows my business is all of the, I guess, the thought leadership in writing. This is who I am and how I want to share about the things that are important to me. And all of my contributions have to do with my business. And it always has my website and, way to contact me. So it is like a business card, if you will, sort of, but it's so much more than that. And then ultimately I've just fallen in love with the process and know I'll continue to do it. So it's absolutely got me endorsed by, hey, I'm an international best-selling author. I work a lot with corporate, but I also have a lot of B2C clients, but a ton of B2B clients. And being able to say that about any of these books, especially this one, the International Black, Exceptional Black Women, because this is like who moved my cheese for companies, right? It's like a business book, literally, but written by exceptional Black women, right? So that, again, it's a calling card of sorts, and it just depends on how you want to use it.
Yeah, for sure. I see that being aligned with your brand and everything like that. So I'm going to bypass one of these questions because you both kind of answered in the same way with how you landed your publishers. It sounds a lot like direct relationships, just word of mouth, people that you've already kind of seen a track record of success for. That's what I've done with mine. Like I've contributed to a multi-author book. So that's coming out in September. And person approached me and they're like, hey, I want you to be a part of this. Yes, it was pay to play, but I also saw I was going to get coached on some of these things. They were going to do most of the back end work. I just had to obviously type the words and and get it to them and get these different drafts in. But the publisher things, they're available, and you had a great idea, Kibi, of like look up multi-author books, just simply Google it, Amazon it, and take your pick because they're out there. What I want to tap into is this question here that was brought up by William about what constitutes best selling. So if you have any knowledge about that, you can share with us. That will be helpful.
Yeah. Well, so there's all kind of best-selling across different types of categories. So New York Times best-selling is very specific. You have to sell 5,000 copies of a book within the first 7 days of its release across all the retailers. Very clear. And I think it's actually physical copies, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not totally sure. Yeah. Then there's Amazon bestselling. So I'm an Amazon bestselling author. I'll let Kenyatta kind of explain what her means. Unfortunately, Amazon is a little like murky. Like they don't really tell you what their criteria is. And it's based on the books that are coming out on that day. So the idea is you sold the most books in a specific category in that day And that's what allows you to hit bestselling. So there isn't like a specific formula in terms of sell this many books, it happens. So there is a bit of magic and calculation to it, which is why I was saying those multi-author book publishers who figured out the formula, use them. They've done it. They know it. Like Kenyatta said, hers has already been 4, number 5, mine 3rd, the next one, it's going to be it. And the reason why is they understand how to do it, right? And so my book in 7 categories on the day, and I think it's like within a 48-hour period when the book comes out, especially because Amazon, there's so many books published. We were number 1 in 7 different categories. And you know, like business and women, entrepreneurship, management. Now that matters to me because I'm a business coach. So for me to say that I am a number 1 best-selling author in those 7 categories is a big deal. Now, the way they do that, you know, has to do with pricing, you know, has to do with like which categories you submit. And like I said, it is a whole thing that I was very happy to know that they had perfected. And I knew for the amount of money I had invested in the time that the likelihood of me not only being a published author, but a best-selling one was pretty high. I will also add, and turn it over to Kenyatta, the community matters. So my multi-author book has published 5 so far. So to Kenyatta's point, there's a whole community of other published authors who are advocating for you, who are helping to market it. So there is a whole pre-marketing campaign that has to happen to help you get to that seller status. It's not just like you wake up, like you're emailing people, you got your book launch squad, there's all that kind of stuff that comes into play. So the beauty of going with a publisher that actually understands how to do this with success is they have a very clear system in place. You just execute. So again, as somebody who didn't want to have to overthink this, you know how to do it, bet, let's make it happen.
And everything she said, and I was happy to let them deal with it. So, because I don't know the algorithm, like you said, it's like magic voodoo, like who knows? I just know I got to tell people about it. It's coming out on this day. Go get your Amazon. And you're right about the physical copies of the 5,000. That's what ultimately Michelle S. Thomas wanted to do with this book. She literally said, I do not want it to be an Amazon bestseller in that way. I'm shooting for something else, right? But all the others are Amazon bestsellers exactly in the way that Kibi mentioned, international bestsellers specifically, right? Because some of them aren't. So the publisher, that's maybe a question to ask. Are the books that we're writing going to be international bestsellers or not? And what are the categories that we're going to be focused on, just so you're aware, right? Exactly. So something to consider as well. Those are questions to ask the publisher, and they should definitely be able to answer you if they know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a strong way of positioning yourselves. I love what you said, Kibi, right? It's like, hey, this category of like women in business and excellence and things like that. Like now you get to, if you bring that to an event planner, a booker, if you're landing speeches or even just more like you did, you're doing your book tour, right? It's like, oh my goodness, we need to have this person. She's number 1 in this cat, right? It's just a way to create listening powerfully in someone else's ear, and then they're going to be able to transfer that to their audience. I mean, imagine for a second, folks, imagine you get into a room and it's warmed up for you already. People are eager to hear you. They may have already read the book, and they're like, oh my goodness, they're coming to the anticipation. So psychology and all this. So we kind of answered this question about the book selling. Shay had a great question about how are individual contributors compensated. So if you have some knowledge on that, please share.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like in certain cases, like Kenyatta, she was paid. You know, ours was all of our proceeds are donated to a charity, and I really like that. You know, it's very difficult, like you say, to figure out how percentages. And I'll be honest, anytime you get into a multi-author book where you're dealing with that, I would run because it's just a waste of time. At the end of the day, you know, if typically multi-author books, the goal is not necessarily to, like I said, hit the New York Times bestseller list. I mean, the amount of effort and energy that it takes to do that is really for those who like, I want to be a published writer. I want to be known as a writer. I want to be out here as a writer. I am a coach. I want to coach. I want to sell my skills, and I like to write. And so the idea of being able to have a pathway towards writing is there, but it's not about me at this stage in my career needing to be New York Times New York Times bestseller. So for me, the idea was I'm sorry, I literally just lost my train of thought. What was the question? Just tell me again.
Hold on, I'm trying to remember. Oh gosh. Oh, it was hold on.
Compensation.
Individual compensation. Yes, compensation. Yeah.
The money,
so none of us were compensated. Yeah, all the proceeds that are being made, after the, publisher obviously paid whatever she needed to do to publish the book, is going to a charity that focuses on foster kids, which I really believed in.
Beautiful.
So, and I'll jump in and say for a couple of the books, as an example, this Thrive book here, Transformational Strategies for Entrepreneurs with the Connected Leaders Academy. This is the book where I did the talk, like a 20 minutes, I don't know how long it was, 40, I can't remember how long the talk was. I did a talk, and it was transcribed for this book here. I can buy this book at cost from the publisher, and then I can sell it, right? So that's one way to get compensated. And it's the same way with this book. I buy it from them at cost, and then I sell it for the price that it's agreed that we would sell the book for. So, but I'm doing the work for doing that, meaning I'm getting the books, I'm actually taking them with me when I go talk, I'm promoting it on social media, I'm shipping the books, I'm handling all of that. So that's one way to get compensated for selling the books. The art of connections, that's not an option for these particular books, right? So it's not set up to compensate authors in that particular way. So that's something to think about and consider when you're agreeing to a multi-author book deal or collaboration. Again, it's about the why are you doing that? Are you doing it to get paid? And you may do that with the author or with the publication you choose to be a part of, but you also may not. And then you kind of decide, what are you comfortable with? And again, what ultimately, what if you're not getting paid per book sale, then what else are you getting? And is that worth your time and effort? That's what you have to, it's the litmus test right there.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the currency matters, right? Because like Kenyatta said, I have hard copies. Whenever I go places, I do take them, I sell them. I think my markup is like, wholesale versus what I think I make like $10 off each book. It's pocket change. It's not necessarily going to change my life financially yet. Knowing that I can have, corporate client A fly me out, pay me for a keynote, actually buy, 100 books to give away to everybody in that room, and potentially pitch my services to another potential 100 people to hire me, it's worth the trade-off. So again, the currency for me is booking a keynote, having a potential opportunity to get future work, being able to fly to a city, and while I'm there, actually take on more business meetings and that kind of stuff. So again, what's your currency? For me, the currency was email signups, followers on social media. And so that's what made the dollars worth the money for me.
Fantastic. There's a question I want to tap into because, like I mentioned, I've been going through this process myself, and I think this might be helpful for anyone here considering writing. What were some of the challenges in writing your chapters? Kibi, you kind of alluded to it with, you had to dig deep, right? This is a personal story. You had to really elaborate a little bit more on the talk itself, and I'm assuming, Kenyatta, you had some similar experiences of sharing more, being open, being more vulnerable, and like, oh my goodness, this is going to be out for the world to see. What are some hesitations or reservations around that in that writing process? So whoever wants to jump in first. Yep.
I'll jump. All of those things that you just said, all of them. It's very, even if I'm writing a page or a paragraph, it's very personal. It's very personal. It's very raw. It's very vulnerable, because it's going to be there forever, right? So, so the process of committing to it, I think, was a challenge for me at first when I even first decided to do it. But then once I wrote it, looking at what I wrote, going, is that what you really want to say? That was a process in owning something, right? And in that way. However, after I did it the first time, for me, actually, it did become easier because then I learned just to open my mind and let it flood. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm going to say, right? My attitude about it changed in some sort of way where I just really owned what it was that I was saying, because I viewed it as, I would say this to you to your face. So that's what I said. And this is what I wrote. Like, there was nothing to hide after a point. It was like, this is what I would say to you if you were standing in front of me. This is the quote I would say. This is the question I would ask you. This is how I think about what I said. And so I'm just writing it down. And that kind of, when that switch flipped, and it was very early on, then it would just happen. And I would look at it and I would read it and I would check it for typos and things like that. And I would send it off because with this one especially, they have everything is edited, right? So they edit it and they will come back to you if they need to make edits, to make it cohesive, whatever. But they've never come back to me and had to edit what I wrote. That right there was an indicator to me that, oh, well, maybe you can write. Like maybe you are doing it in a way that is what they're looking for, in a way that is good, I guess, because I've never understood, what they're editing for anyway. So I started trusting myself, but I had to get there. I did have to get there. But once I did, then I was like, that's what I'm saying. I already said it and I wrote it. So here you go.
Yeah. I would agree with Kenyatta too. I mean, it's really, it's your voice, and if you're not used to, like, if you're maybe earlier in coaching or you haven't really done a lot of public thought leadership, it can be intimidating. I spent a year going live on Instagram because I work with the speech coach to help me overcome some of my hangups when it came to talking very comfortably in front of people. Because I had hangups, like I was overthinking everything, like I wasn't really connecting with people in a much more visceral human level, and it was causing me to not have the impact that I wanted. So that year helped me get to the point where, okay, now I feel very confident about knowing this is what I want to say, as Kenyatta said. And then it was like, oh, but I can't say it the way I normally say it, because in a keynote, you are typically giving advice as opposed to, or coaching, at least as a coach, instead of actually talking about my story. And that was very difficult for me because, like I said, the topic I chose is very personal, very vulnerable. Like I'm trying to show myself as a very firm, strong, confident, invincible leader. And yet I'm talking about how I almost killed myself because of bad choices I made. That took a lot of courage for me to get to. And so it depends on what you're writing about. But you will definitely face imposter syndrome. You will definitely face the distractions. I would say for me, the hardest thing about this was focusing on still running my business, in addition to having to carve time to write, having to carve time to do edits. As Kenyatta said, this was a very highly edited process. And now having to carve time to market the book, promote the book, those are things that I'm having to navigate because I still have a business to run. Like I have coaching to do, I have pipeline development to do to actually keep my business going. So those are all things that are definitely difficult. So when you decide to do it, you do have to focus if you want it to be good. And you also have to decide, okay, this is the amount of time, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm looking to get. And then hold yourself accountable to seeing if those things are happening. And if they're not, okay, what do I need to adjust? Or maybe I need to focus on something else. But for me, this was about driving my business. And my measures of success were, am I making money? Am I seeing metrics change in the areas that I'm evaluating? So I think for everybody, before you start writing the book, really getting clear on what your why is, and then how you will evaluate if you're hitting that why is so important. Otherwise, it is very easy to get caught up in the hype of, I'm doing it, I'm an author. And yet, are you really seeing the results that you want from that? Or, oh my God, this is so hard. And you end up beating yourself up because you're judging yourself that you don't even get it done. So those are the two things that I think that early work will allow you to. And then just because I did see Erica's question, when
Yeah,
you
actually,
say what about
I was gonna ask
self-publishing,
her. Yeah, I was gonna actually have her on mute, just like
what do you mean
elaborate on
about
that.
that? Yeah, what are you asking about specifically?
Well, so why publishing versus self-publishing? I mean, so many people out there are, publishing their own books through Amazon and etc. And so I think you kind of answered it in the idea of like, what is your why and what is it that you want to happen with your book?
Okay.
And yeah, so.
Well, but I think it's also because when you're talking about self-publishing your own solo book or self-publishing a multi-author book, because these are two very distinct things. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding the difference.
Solo book.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I mean, yeah, all that stuff would apply, but I don't know if I would answer it the same way because this is specifically about a multi-author book. It is a very different thing than doing a solo book. So I want to make sure the differences are clear. The reason why I decided to do a multi-author book, I would never self-publish a multi-author book because I'm not a publisher. So for me, this was, what is a expedient, high quality way for me to achieve my why, like achieve my goals as it relates to wanting to publish this specific topic at this specific time. If we want to have a conversation about publishing our own solo book, that's a whole different conversation. There are very different factors I would put into that. I would absolutely consider self-publishing if it was my own book. That said, I've done a lot of the pre-work to make self-publishing a lot easier. The reason why self-publishing is so difficult is because you do not have the machines behind you. You do not have the built-in, communities per se, unless you've fostered that, right? So because I've already spent the last year and a half now building my email newsletter list, getting my social media following up, I have what basically the publishers want. So the question is, do I want to let them publish it or do I self-publish it? I mean, I could easily, I'm literally building what I need to successfully do it in both tracks. So this is the value of doing the multi-author book for me, because I can go to a publisher and say, hey, I got this. How much are you going to pay me for it? And if it's not worth it, I would self-publish it myself. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, I would say just for my experience, I didn't want to have to go try to build a machine that already is built on my own. And I saw this individual, they had a track record, he had 30 or so best-selling books. I'm like, okay, like you've been saying, this is kind of predictable. They know a system to it. They have this dialed down. I want to be a part of it. This is going to be easy transition for me. And it's also, I'll just say I had a 5,000 word limit. That was a challenge in trying to shrink ideas in my life and all these things down. So I couldn't imagine I would probably still be writing to this day if I was publishing my own book and I'd be editing it and I'd be critiquing it. It would never come out. You get a deadline, time to get it done. This is the date. All right, deliver.
Yeah, the word count's no joke.
And that's another, I was going to agree that that was probably one of the biggest challenges, is being within this word count after I've thrown up, everything I wanted to say and being like, oh, you can't say half of that. So
yeah,
that definitely is a challenge.
Yeah,
but I will.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
go ahead.
I plan to do a multi-author book where I will bring authors together to really talk about behavioral superpowers and tell their origin stories of their behavioral superpowers. But I won't self-publish that. I will get a publisher who knows how to do multi-author books. In that regard, again, I don't want to do that for the multi-author, but for my own, maybe by then I'll be ready to do the self-publishing. But yeah, again, like Kibi says, a whole different conversation if it's a solo book.
All right, I just want to tap on this last question. I want to William asks what are your thoughts on ebooks? So William, do you have anything do you want to expand on that? Because from what I get is that our books are already going to be available on print or electronically. So I don't know if you mean something else. Yeah.
Well, I was just trying to understand it. My son brought up ebooks and wanted me to try that. So but I don't know much about it, so I was just asking the question.
Okay. Well, all of our I know my book, Kenyatta's book, you can get them on digital copies. All ebook means is an electronic version of the book. So publishing as a multi-author, in this case, I have an ebook. So I can forward this to somebody. I can send my chapter alone to somebody. Like, I'm actually going to record an audio version of my chapter because the publisher didn't do an audio version, but I'm going to do an individual version of mine and use it as a marketing tool. If you want to get the free audio version, give me your email address. Like, that's kind of what I'm doing. Ebooks, I think what your son is maybe saying is just a shortened book. Like, I think the first book that Kenyatta showed you, which was really tight and small, is a really good example of what could be a very helpful ebook. Ebooks are typically used to be marketing drivers. It's like, hey, give me this text message, blah, blah, blah. Give me some sort of information so I can get you in my community from a contact perspective in exchange for this information. They're pretty short. You can easily publish them on Amazon, and it's a fast way to have, we're talking kind of a calling card. So they're definitely valuable. And what ebooks are inclusive in what we did. They're not exclusive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, just want to make sure you both have, I
was gonna say, I think also ebook can be what some people do, which I have a couple in the works, where it's simply a PDF of your ebook. It isn't maybe an elaborate, I have 2 in the works right now that literally can be used as a lead magnet, a freebie, to someone that,
exactly.
Speaking, and it's not published on Amazon at all, but it's an ebook, meaning it's a collection of whatever it is you're sharing in such a way that it's written and can be shared even in a PDF. That also counts as an ebook these days, and that's cool too. So
awesome. So Kibi, Kenyatta, I just want to make sure, do you have about let's say 10 minutes, because we have 2 more questions in here, I just want to make sure that we address them.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
Yep.
so Gina, since you have your hand raised, please unmute and ask away.
No, I was just going to add to what they were saying about the whole ebook thing, because the book I participated in, it was done by an experienced book publisher. So part of the ebook strategy too was part of how we got to being on that day best-selling Amazon business book, because we were offering people the ebook as well as offering people opportunities to purchase the book for a discounted price. And so all of that added up to us getting, I forgot however many books they need to buy, but by the end of the day, we made that for that day Amazon bestseller list. And the ebook's still available, and I do use it as a lead magnet for people.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Thank you for adding that. Last question that I see here in the chat is from Shay. She asked, what type of permission or release do you have to obtain to use the book or the chapter for marketing or create an audio version of your chapter?
Done. I mean, it's a given that, you know, they're not paying you, they don't own rights to it. So you own your full copyright, you own everything. So you have the right to do whatever you want with your own writing.
And I would also,
meaning my chapter. Yeah. So I can't like publish somebody else's chapter just because I want to, but my chapter that I contribute, to be clear.
Right. It's your intellectual property.
Yeah.
And I would just add to that, because I have to, because I'm also a Legal Shield associate, talk to your lawyer. So I always throw that in there. Always, you know, these kind of things are the exact kind of things you do want to double check with an attorney, because again, you may have questions about it. You may think you know what you can or can't do. Everyone's got an opinion, but then there's also the law. And so I just check with my to make sure that, hey, here's what I think I want to do. Is that cool? And they call me back in 4 hours and tell me if it's cool or not. I mean, it's just so very simple for me to do that, but I would always recommend that because I'm not a lawyer. So
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you do have to sign agreements. So I would never sign an agreement that does not give you full permission and access to use your copyright material. I wouldn't sign it. Find another publisher.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was fortunate enough that was in my agreement already, that similar to what you said, Kibi, about recording an audio version. I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do to use as a lead magnet and just other material out there for a potential client. So we are at 104 right now. Does anybody have any final thoughts, any insights, anything? Anybody encouraged by writing a multi-author book? Is anybody kind of seeing the possibility of what's available for your business, for your career, right? This is all the way to do the thing that we talk about in our mission statement, right? Elevate our voices globally through words, on stages, through podcasts, through TV appearances, interviews, radio, all that kind of stuff. So we have a lot of brilliance in this room, not in this space, right? Our collective global community. There's a lot of brilliance. So share it. Your voice matters. Your story matters. You want to hear it. And I put in the chat a couple times that leave some feedback for our speakers, our authors here. Tomorrow is going to be our final open house for until our summer break. You should have got the newsletter today that July, August, we're taking off. We want to rest, right? Power of the pause. We want to be rested rebels and recover as well. So tomorrow, join us for the open house, and then we're going to come back September strong with new programming and new ways to help you grow your businesses. So all that said and done, we're done. We're tapped out. Show your love for our speakers, our authors, and go on and be powerful.
Thank you, everybody. Please email me if you want follow-up information. Happy to make introductions. Totally.
My email's already sent.
Awesome. All right. I know. I saw Sharon. All right. Have a good day, everybody.